Start streaming. Wait for this thing. All right, we're getting ready to go live.
Cool.
Okay, we're going live in just 1 second. I'm going to show this little blimp for a second, then I'm going to transition right over to us. Blimp's going, and I'm going live. We are live in the Mighty Veedverks Airship. Boom. And we're here with Bryn Gohn, who is a race car driver. His dad was I'm going to turn this music down a little bit. His dad was a sprint car driver and died in a racing accident, unfortunately, when Bryn was 2, Daryl. And then Bryn was raised by legend Kenny Adams in a sprint car racing legend. And 2004, this is, we didn't talk about this beforehand, but to get off on kind of a tangent, but like for drivers and for just race car teams, like 2 things are really important for a driver. One is just to be able to feel it in the seat of your pants, and the other thing is the ability to convey that information to somebody who can adjust your car. And in 2004, turning wrenches for your stepdad, I guess, yep. Kenny, you won Mechanic of the Year. And then in 2005, you started driving and won Rookie of the Year in dirt and asphalt and 3 regional series. 2013, 2008 was like your best season, right? It was, you had 15 top 10s and 11 top 5s and 4 wins. And then at the end of 2008, your stepdad, Kenny, retired and said, you know, you can have the racing operation basically, but you got to figure everything else out. And you lived in a chicken coop for a period of time. And then,
yeah.
And then
it was kind of fixed up chicken coop, but it was still an old chicken coop.
It was an old chicken. Did it have plumbing?
No.
No.
But it was out back of a house.
It had.
In your guy's house. Whatever it takes to go racing.
Yeah. Then in 2013, you brought on a bunch of hemp sponsors, and you had Hempsels and Hemp Heels, who you're still working with, and you got back into racing basically with, and motor blew up after a couple of races. I think we lost you on audio.
No,
no, we got it. Yeah, we got it. And then last season you ran 9 races. You got a top 10. You got 4 top 15s, and now we're this season. And in this season, among the sponsors on your car is Veedverks Racing, and we've been talking for a long time. We were introduced through a mutual Facebook friend. I thought she was your cousin or something, and it turns out she just happened to know a couple of people. But we've been for basically a year now sponsoring race car drivers, trying to find a driver who will get up and speak in favor of the plant. And like I noticed, dude, check this out. So you gotta see this. Look what's on the front spoiler of your car. That doesn't even say Veedverks Racing. That's our straight up logo. He's flying on the front of our car.
Nice.
So Bryn Gohn, you are, man, we are really happy to know you. And I will stop talking. Mm-hmm. Isn't that cool?
That is so cool.
That's great.
That's perfect.
I'm excited that I'm excited about the partnership too, because when I finally decided to use my racing operation to promote cannabis, pretty much all things cannabis, but it started out with hemp because I was really passionate about getting like the body panels made out of hemp and getting hemp incorporated into the production aspect of racing. And so, anyways, I've been anxious to get partnered with people that could see the potential in partnering with a race car driver that was already promoting it, because for some reason, as many cannabis companies I talked to, not a lot of people were very interested in even conversing about it further than the idea.
Well, we found each other because we're definitely interested in.
Thanks to Tori.
Thanks to Tori LaChapelle.
Somehow she knew.
I'm gonna tag her right now.
Where do you stand out with getting the hemp fiberglass and that kind of technology? Because I've seen a lot of really cool plastics out here, but I never thought about it fiberglass. I thought, it's really interesting.
And actually, like the hemp fiberglass supposedly rivals carbon fiber as far as strength and weight is concerned, and carbon fiber is pretty huge right now in the sport, with everybody saving weight. Titanium and carbon fiber are like the big things that cost a fortune but are essential in keeping the weight down. And so I just thought it'd be cool if you could get hemp incorporated, because then the grassroots guys that don't have a lot of money, that can't afford carbon fiber, if we ever got to the point where hemp was produced in the country and was affordable, then those grassroots racers could have lightweight competitive components and not, go broke trying to do it. And it would be made out of a sustainable product, not a toxic product like fiberglass. Carbon fiber.
I'm messing with technology up here on the.
But even like the fuel shells, the shells around the bladders of our fuel tanks are just a molded plastic, and so that could be made out of a molded hemp plastic. The seatbelts could be made out of hemp fibers. I mean, the drivers' uniforms, you name it. There's so much stuff, and as many little zip ties, they could be made out of plastic. There's so many different things that could be made out of hemp. The tear-offs, I mean, I can't tell you how many of those clear tear-offs we go through on a night. That's something that could be made out of hemp.
It could. We just went to this NOCO Hemp Expo, where it was unlike anything that, compared to the year before, it was like twice as crowded. And, a year ago at NOCO, we just had our cartridges and we were releasing those, or just starting to pitch those. But this time around we had 13 products or 12 products, and all of a sudden there were these farmers, not just from elsewhere in Colorado and maybe a couple from North Carolina, but this year we had Kentucky, and we had, guess what, Oklahoma, and we had Kansas, who have just now recently passed. Since NOCO, both Kansas and Oklahoma have legalized industrial hemp. And
nice.
So, I saw for the first time, I took pictures of it, just the kind of farming equipment that you need to just go make, just cut down fields and fields and fields of hemp, not acres, but sections of hemp, square miles of hemp, because that just opened up in Kansas.
And all the John Deere guys are ripping and roaring and happy.
And they're going to go through. They're going to grow hemp, and the smart ones are going to just take off the tippy tops with one pass, and then with the next pass, they're going to get the rest of it. And that tippy top stuff, I'm going to be buying it. And the rest of it is going to be turned into plastics and fuels and building materials and everying that you like. Toilet paper. They had people at NOCO who anything. Yeah. I mean, maybe one plant can save the planet. Maybe, I don't know. It seems like the best next thing that we could work on. It seems like we ought to make a movie about it.
Well, it's not just what we can make out of it, but what hemp does for it. I mean, we know that it clears toxins out of the ground, and it's so good for the
Imagine
earth just
that.
to be growing.
All those
You know?
farmers especially like they legalized hemp where the Dust Bowl was in the panhandle of Oklahoma. They haven't legalized it in the panhandle of Texas, but that part is where they turned all of that prairie asunder, and they did it as fast as they could, and it created this great big dust bowl. And that land has just been agriculturally just intensive agriculture on that land since then. And imagine them being able to, for the first time since 1937, like work hemp roots into that ground. Just rotate it in once. Grow some seeds. You can use them for anything.
Well, doesn't it like even put nutrients back into the earth? I may be wrong.
Yeah,
on that.
it is for a farmer like just the ability, the option to just work hemp in one rotation will. I mean, what it will do for their soil, what it will do for everything else that they choose to grow is going to be an amazing thing.
We're healing the earth with less plastics and biodegradable plastics, but it's so cool that just the fact that it grows is healing as well.
Exactly. It would grow just like the dandelions in your yard. If you had the opportunity to.
Tell us about, you've got 2 kids, right?
I have 2 kids. I have a son who'll be 3 next month, and my daughter Malaya, who just turned 1 last month.
Mm-hmm. And Malaya was born with megacystic microcolon intestinal hypoperistalsis with MMIHS. And you're doing your wife is putting on an event this weekend to raise awareness and funding for MMIHS. And
actually, when my wife was pregnant with my daughter, we didn't know we had any issues or anything, because with my son, we did everything naturally, and she had a natural birth at home. And when you do it naturally with a midwife, I guess you stop getting ultrasounds after 20 weeks, where nowadays, if you have a hospital birth, they must continue to do ultrasounds the whole way until the baby's born, and just keep checking on stuff. So anyways, everything was going perfectly normal like it did with our son Kai. And even when the birthing process started, the heart rate and everything was fine. We still had no clue. And once our daughter's head was delivered, then that's when the birthing process became difficult, and my wife was really struggling to get her out. And our daughter ended up losing blood flow and oxygen. And long story short, the ambulance came and got her, and it was about 10 to 15 minutes that she didn't have any blood flow or oxygen. And when we got to the York Hospital, they put her on a cooling blanket. I guess they call it a hypothermia therapy or something like that. And I guess that slows down your cell activity so that your cells don't die off or get as badly damaged. And she was on that for 72 hours. And I would say that it was certainly a success, because whenever they brought her body temperature back up and did EEGs and MRIs and checked out her brain, there wasn't anything wrong. She didn't have any seizures. I mean, everything was good there. And then at that point, they didn't really know why her midsection was distended, or I think that's the word they used. She had a lot of fluid in her abdomen, and her kidneys were full of urine, and her bladder was also full of urine. And the specialists at York Hospital couldn't really figure out the cause of all this, and they had a guy come from Johns Hopkins who was going to possibly look at the situation, and then they ended up making the decision just to transfer up to Hershey. And I'm glad they did, because, I mean, the team up at Hershey's been phenomenal. And fortunately, the urologist that looks after her had dealt with a case of MMIHS in Connecticut, and it's a very, very rare syndrome. And every day we're finding out more and more families that are popping up with it. But around the time Malaya was born, I think there was, I forget what it was now, maybe like 250 documented cases since the 50s or something of it. So anyways, it was very lucky for us that that urologist was there and had an idea of it, and everything that was going on with her, all of her symptoms. It was 2 + 2 = 4 kind of situation. And I truly believe if he wouldn't have been there, she would have got misdiagnosed, and we probably would have had one hell of a roller coaster ride. But thankfully, the diagnosis was on point, and we were able to take care of everything immediately. And I think we were at Hershey. We were in the NICU for 2 or 3 weeks. My wife remembers it all perfectly, but I get the dates and times screwed up. But anyways, I'd say it was a month total she was in the hospital and got released. And so, yeah, so she turned a year old last month, but my wife was planning this big 1-year celebration for our daughter, because it's kind of like a big deal for these kids to turn a year and grow old, because the medical information out there on it for the longest time pretty much said that kids born with this syndrome wouldn't live past 5 or 6 months because they just starve to death, essentially, because the syndrome affects the smooth muscle function, and so their intestines don't work, so they can't digest or move food through their system, and it also affects their bladders, and they can't void urine on their own, so they need catheterized every 3 to 4 hours. Otherwise, their urine refluxes into their kidneys and causes UTIs and just, a mess. So, anyways, I think we've come across maybe 3 or 4 teenagers across the country now that have MMIHS and are doing pretty good and have had transplants and stuff. So we've come across a lot of promising information, and the families that we've become in touch with through all this are all trying to change the information that's out there so that anybody who ends up having a child with this has a little bit more promising information to come across, and not such grim, detrimental seeming stuff.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, back to the main point. This weekend, my wife's having a big community fundraiser to put towards the MMIHS Foundation, because that was just created by the families. I want to say it was official maybe 6 months ago. I don't know, probably a little longer ago than that, but just recently made official a nonprofit organization, and it was started by the families to try and start figuring out some better long-term plans and goals for the futures of these kids, because everything's really just on the whim. As something happens, the specialists that everybody's dealing with just kind of are figuring stuff out. I would say that out in Pittsburgh, because there's such a well-renowned GI hospital and they do transplants there, they've handled the most cases of MMIHS, and Dr. Rudolph out there would probably be the most knowledgeable on MMIHS and handling things. And so while Malaya was still in the hospital at Hershey, we ended up taking her out to Pittsburgh just to have him confirm that everything was going good and we were all doing the right thing at Hershey. And he said he wouldn't have done anything differently, so we've just continued to go to Hershey to follow up so we don't have to drive 3.5 hours out to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Hershey's like an hour away from us.
So in your opinion, from what I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is this disease basically it affects the intestines and the food can't go through the intestines to be digested?
Correct. To my knowledge, there's no motility, and I don't know for a fact if that affects the absorption. I know for a fact that the motility is the movement of it that moves the food through it. So I don't know if something stimulated movement in their intestines, if they would absorb the nutrients, or if that is also hindered as well. But yes, basically no food moves through them, and it's like a spectrum syndrome, and it seems to affect the females worse than the males. Like the males more or less just have bladder issues than they do intestinal issues. There are some boys out there that have it full blown like the females do, but and even the thing with how much of the intestine has motility. Like some of the kids have an ileostomy because they have motility to their ilium, and so they open up the ilium. Hi, buddy. Daddy's doing a live video. So yeah, so they open up at the ilium and attach that to the wall and let everything drain out of them that way. But she doesn't have any motility below past the bottom of her stomach. So she just has a G tube, which they typically give kids food through if they can't, eat orally. Hold on 1 second. Let me close the door. Thanks, buddy. Okay, sorry.
Kai?
So she just has a G tube, which typically you'll put food through into the stomach, but hers is just for drainage because nothing moves past the bottom of her stomach.
Yeah.
As far as cannabis is concerned, is there anything it could do, or what are your thoughts about that with her?
Yeah, because your involvement, you became an advocate for cannabis, like 4 years, or do my math, 3 years before she was born.
Because if this was Crohn's or anything else, we knew how that would help, but I'm kind of at a loss of how
will I don't even know if I don't know the answer.
And to be honest, aside from probably pain management and helping with nausea, everything else is like a guessing game. And unfortunately, in Pennsylvania, where it kind of just became legal, and we couldn't really get our physician to confidently sign off on just chronic pain,
right.
Even though if anybody looked at our daughter's situation, it would be pretty clear that she's in chronic pain. He would have preferred to have genetic mutation on there as an option, so he didn't have the confidence in signing off on it. So long story short, we don't really have that option to experiment with.
Yeah.
But I would be interested to see how it would affect the motility. I know in an overactive digestive system, it slows down the motility, but I'd be interested because cannabis seems to be a balancer. If you have underactive motility, if it would increase it or stimulate it.
Yeah.
Well, if there's inflammation in the body, if this condition causes inflammation, we know that, cannabis will help with that. We know cannabis will help with pain. As far as digestion-wise, knowing the antibacterial and antifungal type of things, you would think it might be almost something that would strengthen her systematically,
Yeah.
Right.
You would.
Absolutely.
I mean, it seems like something that a loving parent ought to be worth, be allowed to try. Because we know it's non-harmful, we know it's non-addictive. We know that the U.S. government has a patent on it for its medicinal value.
Yeah, exactly.
U.S. patent number. I was looking for I don't have my marker here. Yes, I do.
Yes, you do.
Sorry, let me do this real quick. It's U.S. number 6630507. Yeah, it's on the back of his shirt. The U.S. government has a patent on cannabis. It's patent number 6630507, and it is for the medicinal value of cannabinoids as neuroprotectants and anti-inflammatories. And specifically, it talks about Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And if you've ever loved anybody who had Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, U.S. patent number 6630507. It just, the best I can say it is, it will piss you off.
Bad.
Yep.
It will piss you off if you read that patent. You realize what has been going on. That this whole time they've been throwing people in jail for something that they know has medicinal value, and sorry to get off on that rant, but that's a recurring thing. That's a recurring theme. Is
definitely
that I don't know. It looks like, stuff's going to change this year, and Bryn, you're going to be a big part of it. I think we're going to be a big part of it.
Awesome.
The people who we're talking to now are they just kind of didn't know before, I guess, but now the word's getting out. We got states like Kansas and Oklahoma legalizing industrial hemp. That's
Oh,
such
yeah.
a big thing. See, in 2014,
Especially those states.
yeah, in 1937, they effectively banned hemp and marijuana, cannabis. It's all the same plant. By passing a tax act and then not issuing any stamps to anybody to put those tax stamps on their stuff. And if you didn't have the tax stamps on it, then you would go to jail forever. And that's how they made it illegal. And then all of these other things followed, with the Controlled Substances Act and so on. And in the Controlled Substances Act, they made it, they included marijuana in it's cannabis. I should make it so my phone doesn't do that while we're talking. I don't know how to do that, but
Sure, there's a setting somewhere.
there must be. But they to be on Schedule 1, you have to have a drug or a molecule has to have no accepted medical use, and it has to be highly addictive. I said that it has to be highly addictive and have no known accepted medical use, and it has to be basically so dangerous that you can't test it anymore. And so U.S. Patent 6630507 is the U.S. government's patent on cannabis for its medical value. Therefore, the U.S. government knows that it cannot meet the criteria for Schedule 1. So
Right.
with hemp coming forward, and I guess back to that, in 2014, though, Congress, so they banned it. It shouldn't be Schedule 1, period. That's the drug. But now we're talking about hemp, which in 2014, Congress authorized, for the first time since 1937, pilot programs growing industrial hemp in the United States. And it defined industrial hemp as cannabis sativa L, same plant as marijuana, with an H. They spell it with an H. Even in 2016, the DEA spelled it with an H. But it defined it as cannabis sativa L that has less than 0.3% THC by dry weight. And that was very difficult for people to do. So all these farmers, Colorado said, all right, we'll do that. And the Ag Department got behind it, and they authorized it and met all of those constraints of the 2014 Farm Bill. And they ordered seeds from Canada or wherever, right? And they started breeding them in 2014. They had a seed crop, and in 2015 they had their first kind of real commercial type of crop. And we were buying CBD then from that crop. And 4 years later, after this pilot program, after what Congress set forth in 2014 to do, a pilot program, it legalized industrial hemp. In Colorado at least. See if it worked. 4 years later, now we've got the states that are 2 states to Oklahoma and Kansas just to the east, and now they're going to have to plant a seed crop.
Right.
It'd be good to be in siege right now because state after state after state is going to get on board, and it's probably going to happen this year. I bet federally. It's up to us. Bryn and Julie and me and Josh and Don, it's up to us. This year to just make it happen. This is the year it really can happen. We had John Boehner, former Speaker of the House, right, Republican Speaker of the House, before Paul Ryan. John Boehner, guess now he is. I don't even know what to say about this, but
he
now
bought a farm.
but he's now on the board of Acreage Holding, the largest marijuana growing, publicly traded growing. He did that last week, right? And Mitch McConnell introduced a bill to just say what this is McConnell's bill. It basically says that, hey, that 2014 thing that Colorado and some other states tried out, that worked great, and companies like Veedverks got started, and they started sponsoring race car drivers and helping people, and it worked out great. So Mitch McConnell is introducing legislation to just say, okay, now that it's all good, industrial hemp is good. And really the only question is going to be, you know, how you define industrial hemp this time, because it's all the same plant. In 2014, they defined it as 0.3% THC by dry weight. And so this time around, but I think it's going to happen, but it's only going to happen because of, you know, us.
Education, getting the word out.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some other industries that are really pushing, like I know the cosmetics industry is really pushing to no more petroleums in their products. Well, you know, hemp's a great substitute for that. And things like crayons. There shouldn't be petroleum products in crayons. Kids eat those. Whereas, you know, those same oils can be used, anywhere there's an oil, hemp can be used.
Yeah.
My phone's getting charged now. It gave me 20% low battery right on top of it. Yeah, that's the one thing I haven't figured out with this. Well, no, it's one of the many things I haven't figured out with this setup, but how to make it so that we can do this and I don't have the extraneous, like, notifications
We need to
going on.
figure out how I can answer.
Are you racing? So the event for MMIHS is Saturday? It's tomorrow or Sunday?
Sunday.
Sunday? Are you racing this weekend? When's the next time you're racing?
Yeah, we have this weekend off, and next weekend we'll be racing Friday at Williams Grove Speedway and Saturday at Sealands Grove Speedway. And that's May 4th and 5th, I believe.
Wait, is that Williams Grove or Williamsburg?
Williams Grove.
Williams Grove, and that's one of the big ones that you want to tackle this year.
Yeah, Williams Grove is a pretty nationally known, I mean, even probably world, like Australia and New Zealand also race sprint cars, so they would know about Williams Grove. But Williams Grove is one of the big racetracks in the country that's been well known and been around for many, many years, like the early 1900s, since like racing began, basically. And it's also going to be a big race because the ASCS National Tour, which is pretty much, you know, the professional guys of what we do, the 360 deal. They're coming into town to race against us, and the 360 sprint car racing around here has gotten pretty tough over the last couple of years because the 410 racers, the bigger engine guys, who are mostly the professionals who race for a living or, you know, race for good money. That's what they've always done, and now that there's been more 360 racing and some better paying 360 stuff, all of the 410 guys also race 360s. It's kind of like the NASCAR guys running the
Xfinity Series.
Support series.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's pretty much what our deal's become, and a lot of guys don't like it, and a lot of guys do like it. I'm a guy that likes it because you don't get any better unless you race with the best, and I get pretty excited when I know the competition is going to be tough, and I know next weekend it's going to be the toughest that we'll race against all year long, and so I'm getting pretty stoked. I get nervous about it, and I get myself worked up, but I get pretty excited too.
That's so 360 is 360 cubic inches, which is slightly bigger than is that like a 5.7 liter engine?
I don't know that, to be
I
honest.
had an IROC Z. A 91
Okay.
IROC Z with a 350 in it, and it was automatic, and it would lay scratch in like first through third. Is that like this? That's about the same size engine, 360.
Yeah,
so
I'm pretty sure that's the block that they take and open up.
And then 410 is like,
I mean,
that's a pretty solid
they used
engine.
to always take what they would call junkyard blocks, which were just GM blocks out of junkyard cars, and use them. But now you have like manufacturers like Dart and other people who make them. But usually the junkyard blocks were pretty popular because they were lighter. The aftermarket blocks had more material around the cylinder walls and stuff, so that they would hold up for the performance aspect of it, but everybody would be lighter.
Right.
And the blocks were like 100 pounds lighter or something. I mean, it was a big deal. But I'm pretty sure that the junkyard ones are hard to find nowadays.
So you've got one of these Dart blocks,
Yeah.
and you say you've got your equipment this year. You think it's pretty solid?
Oh yeah. When I first moved up here, I moved up here with some pretty fresh equipment. I mean, we did 25 or 30, I forget exactly what we did in 2008, 20 some races. And so my equipment wasn't completely worn out. But after I raced in 2009 and 2010, my stuff was getting pretty rough. And I was like barely getting by. I mean, when I moved up here, I probably had $1,000 in my savings account because all I did was work on race cars for a living. You don't make much money working on race cars. And so I didn't have much money in my savings account, and I never had a real job before. So I was just barely getting by. I mean, the money I'd make racing would get me some food through the week and get me back to the racetrack the next weekend to keep that going. And then eventually that all changed. But once I got the job and started making some money, it was my goal to slowly upgrade my equipment and put a race car under me that I had confidence in. And so I picked away year after year, and I guess it probably helped being off a couple seasons here and there with the motor blowing up and made it a little easier to acquire some other things. But then I eventually got a race car under me that I have complete confidence in. And one thing I have to say that I've been really happy with is, even though we've barely raced over the last 5 or 6 years, when we do go race, we're still competitive. We're not out there competing for the win, but we've led races and we're competing with the top guys in the sport. We're not just out there looking like a joke, and that's kind of what I would expect out of not racing, because a lot of race car drivers will tell you that a sprint car is one of the toughest race cars to drive, period. And there's no doubt about it, just like anything else, the more you do it, the better you get, the more natural, the more natural it becomes. And so I'm just thrilled that our situation is just right, and I guess I have enough confidence in everything that when we do go out, we make good laps and we don't look like idiots. We still compete and we put on a respectable performance.
So you've got on the car, you've got Hempsels and hemp heels still.
Yeah,
right, like
correct.
So, and you started with them. They've been with you for a long time. So, like, what's Hempsels about?
Hempsels makes hemp, they make soft and sourdough hemp pretzels, and the dough is made with hemp, and they're phenomenal. Everybody that tries them, especially the soft ones, absolutely love them. And here, central Pennsylvania is known as the snack capital of the world. So, what better place than to promote something like a hemp pretzel?
Well, even up there, I remember living in Pennsylvania. I mean, pretzels were like everywhere. That was like the snack to get, and dip them in mustard. And
I can't wait to try some Hempsels.
Yeah, me too.
That sounds awesome.
I'll have to get you guys a bag somehow. Maybe like pack up something with a bunch of frozen, like ice packs or something, and ship it out there. Because they're really good. And I forget how much protein's in each pretzel, but I mean, it's super healthy, and one pretzel swirl will fill you up. I mean, that'll fill you up pretty good.
Are they sprinkling the hemp seeds on top of it, by any chance?
There's actually raw. I forget exactly. As far as I understand, it's the ground up whole seed, and then I don't know what else is added to it to make the dough. And then he also has raw seed in the dough. So if you take a bite out of it and you look at it, you can see raw seed mixed in with the dough.
Nice.
And then it just, it's crusted over. But you can even see little flakes of the shell in the dough, so I can tell that, the whole seed is ground up.
Right. Well, you can even make hemp milk out of hemp flour.
Yeah.
Just you decanter it off, and it's super, super, super high in protein. It has all your amino acids, your 3, 6, 9s. I quit taking fish oil when I started eating hemp.
Really?
Mm-hmm. You don't need it.
I'm working through.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got it. That NoCo. I got a few bottles of these hemp seeds, and I've worked those into my diet. But I've worked them into my diet like 4 tablespoons at a time. Like,
wow.
say that, or 2.
I put it in my smoothies. Like a tablespoon of seeds.
Yeah,
and it keeps me going.
It was like the only thing here to eat, and it's like I get on a sunflower seed kick or something, you know. So yeah, I haven't like worked hemp into those hemp seeds into my daily. You should try them; they're awesome.
I will.
But yeah, I've binged on them a couple of times. I guess it's the best way to.
Well,
they were
it's
tasty,
almost a complete
and
food.
you know, and I live to tell the tale. They're
anybody that likes sunflower seeds. That's how I always sell them on the whole seeds. Because I mean, now I guess with growing hemp being legal, you might be able to not have to get them lightly toasted. But because of having to get them lightly toasted, they taste exactly like sunflower seeds.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And it's so easy to lightly toast them. Like, I've been making up different hemp recipes being out here trying to find different things, and you barely put them in the oven and you better pull them right back out because those little hemp hearts will toast fast. You know?
Yeah.
You'll ruin them real quick.
Yeah.
I feel like we should do a commercial plug here real quick that I saw this. I don't know if you probably didn't. We haven't like told anybody this yet, but like the Connoisseur Cup in Colorado, like 2015 was the last time they had the like High Times Cannabis Cup here, and so the Connoisseur Cup is like you get together for several months, like 6-7 months, and dispensaries and concentrate manufacturers submit like their best products. Like everybody just submits their best, and industry people get together and they vote on it, and then at the end of it there's more voting, and ultimately it turns out that, like, we haven't even said this, but boom, we won the Connoisseur Cup for best topical.
Nice.
I
Is that the same thing I have?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So a week ago we were
There you go. Hold it. All right.
Yeah.
yeah. So Amelia won best topical, and honestly, that was a surprise. Like
That's awesome.
it was. So that's really cool. But so
And we have a really good sale going on right now, too.
do we?
Yes, we do. Awesome,
Yeah, exactly.
awesome. You buy one at regular price and get another for $20.
Let's do this. Do this. We're gonna do something here, Bryn.
What's that?
I'm doing something here in real time.
It'll surprise you.
Will you set up a code?
Sure.
That is BRYN 1. Like right now, and I'm gonna make this real time text. Proceeds go to Bryn. All right, I'm doing this in real time, so we'll.
Bryn 1.
And I'm going to stretch this out. Sorry.
That's what we want to be saying after the races. Bryn won.
Bryn 1.
Yeah, Bryn won.
There. That's a gigantic little crawler on the bottom. Wait.
What would you like the discount to be?
20%.
Nice. I'll have to
And
get busy promoting that.
no, so we're going to do it for the people who are watching this video and using this code. So it
Okay.
gets out of hand, but what we're doing is this.
Well, then
So-
I can't promote that right now because I'm doing live.
Proceeds go to Bryn. All right, use code
Awesome.
Bryn1. Save 20%. Proceeds go to Bryn. we'll see. Maybe
thank
we
you
can
very
buy
much.
some transmissions.
We don't use those.
Huh? Transmissions.
transmissions.
All right, drivetrains. You were talking smack on Facebook about people like not properly.
Oh, yeah, maintenance in their drive. Yeah. The
Yeah.
drive lines.
You don't have transmissions. It's just one speed.
What's that?
It's just one speed, one gear in the.
Yeah, and
Wow.
they had a quick change rear ends in them, so we pull the rear cover off and change the gears to give it a different top end or a different acceleration depending on track size or track conditions. But yeah, it's just a drive shaft that goes from the U joint in the back of the motor right into the rear end, and we just have a little shifter that puts it in and out of gear, which is basically like neutral and drive. So, we'll be sitting still. In order just to start the car, you have to put it in drive, like put it in gear, and then a push truck will start pushing you and turns the motor over. And once you pick up enough speed and you can see that you have oil pressure, you turn your fuel on, and then you turn the switch on and drive away from the push truck. And
That
then when
sounds
you
like
want
my
to come to a
first
stop,
car.
you pull it out of gear and coast to a stop and then shut it off with fuel.
That sounds just
So we
like my
can't
first
start
car.
and stop on it, right?
That's so crazy. That's I can't wait to see this race.
They're real race cars. You know, we don't have all that street legal stuff and any of the stuff that cancels out horsepower.
How many horsepower does a 360 have?
Right around 700. I would say some of the top end motors on the market probably make 720, and ours makes about 680. So you could say 700 is probably a safe average.
I was trying to get fired up before. Let's see if my keyboard will work. Yeah, I had it set up earlier. I was going to try and get it made into like a clip, but now I'm going to try and do it in real time. Because this is what. Let's see. Then let's do this.
Okay, you did a good job.
Down. Turn that on.
Sure. Is he making another run for it? No.
Yeah, this is what I keep thinking of.
Asphalt. Asked me if we could come down here.
The car's clip.
Do is make that there turn. Every track I've ever raced.
It's like turn right to go left.
Why don't you go?
Yeah,
You got to break her loose.
I'll keep an eye on this.
exactly.
Turn her back.
Thanks, Doc.
And that's the on asphalt. Was that the when you did it in what 2008, the rookie of the year on asphalt? Is it still like a lot of counter steering, or is it different?
Yeah, you do counter steer to a degree because the car will get out from under you. Just like if you watch the NASCAR races, a lot of times you'll see those guys, if they get a little squirrely in the corner or whatever, the
Yeah.
back end comes out from under them, and it's just like a little wobble, and you'll get that on asphalt. Now, on asphalt, you have the option of running a dirt car on asphalt or an asphalt car, and when I first started running asphalt, I ran my dirt car on asphalt as well. And those cars, you drive a lot more sideways.
Mhm.
You definitely manhandle them around the racetrack more so than you do an asphalt car. I would say when you're driving an asphalt sprint car, it's like 70% car and 30% driver, because if the car's not right, there's
Right.
nothing you're going to do about it. Absolutely nothing you're going to do about it. Where at least in a dirt car, it just seemed like if it was a little bit off, well, you'd just manhandle it through the corner and you'd be fine. Now you wear out your tires quicker and you're
Right.
more
I was gonna ask
abusive
him
to the equipment, but you definitely seemed like you had more control.
Which is your favorite, dirt or
Dirt,
asphalt?
hands down. Yeah, when I was doing asphalt my rookie season, it kind of became my preference because I was more competitive at that sooner than I was on dirt. But as soon as things on dirt started clicking, There's no doubt about it. I don't know. I don't really enjoy the asphalt at all. It was a neat experience, and it's definitely something cool to say I did. And I won the first ever ASCS asphalt race in North Carolina, so that's pretty cool because they had never done an asphalt race before, and they started doing some asphalt races, and I just so happened to start on the front row at Ace Speedway in Altima Hall, North Carolina, and drove away with it. And it was kind of crazy because I figured somebody was going to drive by me anytime because I was kind of just cruising to keep the car under me. But if I watched the video, I just drove away from her and checked out, so it worked out. But I definitely prefer dirt.
You probably save a lot on tires.
I've been doing all this. Oh yeah.
Engines and tires are the biggest expense in this game. There you go.
Can I just say that it is possible due to circumstances in life for me to like how many things had to happen for that? Let's see. There. What? There. That's so cool. Thanks, Taz. Taz Racing Customs.
Yeah,
that was cool. Sorry to get off.
So with your little boy, is he showing signs of being interested too? Is it going to be a third generation kind of thing?
I've seen that.
He definitely is into it, and it was something. I mean, naturally, there's race car stuff all around because it's what we do. But it wasn't anything I planned on shoving down his throat because I certainly don't want to deal with him racing go-karts or anything while I'm still trying to pursue my own racing career. I'd rather him be my mechanic until I'm done. But he definitely is into it. I think he's in the normal little kid stage where he's obsessed with crashes. So he enjoys the crashing aspect of it a whole lot more than he appreciates the racing aspect. But he's definitely into it, and he always thinks Daddy's race cars is the coolest. And since a young age, he's been pretty into it. So I think he'll be into it for sure.
That's cool. Yeah. When we tried, Bryn helped me try and dial in this system so that I could attempt FaceTime and Kai, it's Kai, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kai was helping him with his race car. They were out in the shop. It was a very
Speaking of race car, I just love looking at that in the background. That is just so flippin' awesome.
Yeah, looks good. Looks really good.
Yeah, it looks awesome. We're going to have a good year. We're running on it, probably coming on an hour at this point, so we should get off the it's not the phone, it's like the FaceTime, OBS Studio, Facebook Live thing. But man, we're excited. We're just really excited. Like this isn't a fake. Like Lowe's is. Well, I'm sure Lowe's cares deeply about Jimmy Johnson, but
I'm sure he does.
You know what I'm saying is we've been talking a long time, and your heart is where our hearts are, and we are just fully behind you. And thank you for going out there and starting in 2013 with flying a. That's I don't know if I pointed that out fully before, but. Like that's not. It doesn't say Veedverks Racing on the hood. Even it's our actual logo with the leaf on it. It's really cool, Bryn. And
that's the beautiful thing about dirt track race.
Yeah.
Is the politics haven't overrun it. And when I first put the hemp sponsors on the car, I was kind of worried about. Do you guys hear that echo?
No.
Or is it just me?
No, it's going to be just you,
okay.
Which I'm surprised we've avoided it to this point.
Well, it looks like Justin heard one.
That's fine.
Echo way back when.
Anyways,
Yeah.
so I was just worried, how the racetracks were going to receive it. I mean, I guess I really didn't care how the people were going to. Not much they can do about it, but I was a little worried how organizations and racetracks were going to handle it. But I have hemp leaves all over my race car and of a significant size that it's pretty obvious it's actually from hands. And not a single racetrack has said a word or given me grief or anything about it. And I think it's because I don't. What's that?
Do you get a positive feedback? You said you haven't had any negative. Do you have people come
Yes.
up and ask questions?
Yeah, I have gotten a lot of positive feedback, and that really shocked me as well because I know my mom was pretty convinced that the racing community was gonna throw me out or something. But actually, it was pretty impressive how many people came to me and either thanked me for what I was doing or said they appreciated it or whatever the case was. But we certainly got, I would say, 80% positive feedback and 20% negative feedback.
It's about how America breaks out right now. We're over 80-20. 82% of America is in favor of legalizing at least medicinal cannabis, let alone hemp, right? And rec will come when it comes, but
Right.
we just need to keep working to free the plant. I'm afraid that we have what is up, Tori? I tried to tag Tori earlier in this post, but she committed the fatal sin of not liking Veedverks on Facebook, so I couldn't do it. My bad. Tried, but thank you, Tori, for introducing us to Bryn. I think that everybody is happy with that. But
Absolutely, I think it's going to be a great partnership.
we'll share this post and tag it if you'll do that, so that or help us figure out what we haven't directed anybody to the MMIHS fundraising page or anything, but we should collectively just do our best to do that after this.
I'm pretty sure. I forget what the website is. I think it might just be mmihsfoundation.org.
MMIHSfoundation.org.
Yes.
I am doing that, and I'm going to pin it, and it'll show up at the top. And rock on. But cool. All right. Well, thanks for talking to us, Bryn.
Hey, thank you.
We're gonna do some cool stuff, and good luck this weekend with the MMIHS Foundation, and
we'll have some Veedverks samples.
nice. And then after that at Williams Grove, where
Williams Grove.
racing
Next Friday.
Whoopacitude will occur. Yeah, but cool. All right, man.
It's going to be some serious competition.
Yeah, I'm already thinking about ways to somehow swing away. Do I have any family members in that area who could die? No. So I'll have to go to Plan B. But all right. But cool, man. Thanks, Brent. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
All right. See you.
All right, bye.
See you.
Do you have any family?